Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. South Korea is solidifying its position as a key defense partner in the Middle East. Just yesterday, Seoul and Abu Dhabi signed a major MOU to boost cooperation in the defense sector, highlighting deepening ties built on trust and technology. The UAE, already operating Korea's Cheongung-II missile system, is now showing strong interest in the KF-21 fighter jet, while other nations, including Egypt and Türkiye, are also on the radar. As K-defense products gain credibility in a region traditionally dominated by U.S. and European suppliers, Korea is seizing a critical window of opportunity. The question now is, how far can this momentum go? For answers to this, we are joined by Kim Junmo, professor of the Department of Public Administration at Konkuk University, here in the studio with us. A big welcome, Professor.
Yes, my pleasure to be here.
And also joining us online is Mohamed Gouda, professor of Middle East Economics at Konkuk University of Foreign Studies. Good to see you, Professor.
Thank you so much.
So let's start a discussion first with Professor Kim. The MOU, of course, between Korea and UAE is aimed at strengthening cooperation in the defense sector. What do you think are the key achievements of this latest deal, and how will it actually impact Korea's defense sector?
Yes, as you mentioned, Korea and UAE signed 7 MOUs yesterday in the areas of energy, defense, AI, space, biohealth, education, and intellectual property. We see industrial implications, including the defense sector. Both countries signed agreed to participate in the Stargate project, which is an AI data center with a size of 5 gigawatt size, with initial investment of US $20 billion amount, where Korean companies like Samsung, LG, and Hynix, and others can contribute greatly. And historically, a Korean company helped to develop Khalifa satellite, first geosensing satellite of UAE in 2015, and Baraka nuclear power plant was constructed by Korean firms, now in operation. It's producing about 25% of total electricity production in UAE. So we can see additional projects in space and energy field, include also together with defense projects. And we may be introducing next generation reactor called SMR. And going into the conventional defense issue, as you mentioned, KF-21 fighter jet will be a hot item, and we will be expecting multiple MOUs and joint ventures to come. And defense MOUs will take some time to be finalized, but we can expect good news from that.
Wow, so a lot of deals we're seeing,
Yes.
and it will definitely be a good opportunity for South Korea's defense industry moving forward. Now, in fact, the UAE was the first country in the Middle East to adopt Korea's Cheongung-II missile system, and it has become a leading destination for Korean defense exports as well. Professor Gouda, can the UAE be expected to, serve as a hub for K-defense exports across the Middle East?
Yes, that's an excellent question. We have to remember that UAE with Korea few years back under Moon's administration had the biggest single arms exports deal in Korea's history, worth $3.5 billion. So UAE has become actually the first foreign operator of this advanced system of Cheongung-II missile system. So this level of trust signals a long-term partnership and not just a one-off purchase. Second thing is that UAE is doing its best to have industrial integration when it comes to arms and when it comes to weapon industry. We have to remember, many people perhaps don't know that UAE's Edge Group, which recently ranked among the top 20 global defense companies, have already experienced co-producing systems with Israel, with Serbia, with US. So UAE is developing its own, I would say, in-house abilities to produce weapons. Also, Korea's defense exports jumped from $2.3 billion in 2019 and roughly to $14 billion in 2023. So Korea is actually expanding its market, and Korea is searching for a regional hub, and UAE can serve to be like that. However, we have also to note that many other regional powers in the Middle East are trying their best to have localization. We have to look at Saudi Arabia pushing aggressively for localization under Vision 2030. We're looking also for Egypt, which has a long history of weapons production. Turkey also has its own ambitions. So we still have to wait and see what will happen. However, what happened, I think, earlier yesterday and today signals that Korea is really involved with UAE and supporting UAE vision. But of course, we'll have to wait maybe, few months or few years to see how will this end up to be.
Right, so it is indeed a good opportunity, and we'll really still have to keep a competitive edge to maintain and further expand these exports as well. Now, on that same note, Professor Kim, the UAE has, like we've said, recently shown strong interest in the KF-21 fighter jet. For our viewers who are unfamiliar with it, what exactly is the KF-21, and why is it attracting so much attention?
Okay, KF-21 is the next generation fighter jet developed by Korea, and it is currently 4.5 generation fighter with growth potential to be the 5th generation fighter like F-35. Countries aiming at advanced fighters like F-35 but cannot have direct access should find alternative aircraft, and among them, KF-21 is the newest and most capable aircraft of its kind. With growth potential to have the 6th generation aircraft in the future, including AI and multi-man-unmanned teaming technology utilizing unpiloted aerial vehicle. So also this will be used as a stepstone for Korea to develop the real 6th generation fighter in the future. So many countries are interested in this product, and future customers include UAE, Philippines, Indonesia, and other Middle Eastern countries. And in fact, Vice Minister of Defense of UAE and Air Defense Commander of UAE were in Korea in August and April, respectively, to have a test flight of this aircraft. So I think there is a great potential of this aircraft in many countries.
Wow, so we are going to look forward to a lot of potential with this KF-21. But like you've said, it's not just the UAE that we're expecting. It's K-Defense is actually gaining traction across the Middle East and even further with that. So compared with traditional strong players like the U.S. and European nations as well, what kind of competitive advantages does Korean-made weapons actually offer?
Yes, there are several elements. First, quality and price. On the par with the existing leading countries, also Korean defense products are affordable at acquisition cost, also manageable in terms of service life cost. So that's one merit. Secondly, fast delivery and meeting customer country needs. And thirdly, compatibility with existing weapon systems, including ammunition. Fourth, we have wide variety of defense product lines, from ground to air, air to air defense, and naval systems. And also we offer local production options. That's a very attractive industrial promotion package.
So a lot of advantages and competitive edges that we're seeing with Korean defense weapons. But what is it for, the Middle Eastern countries, amid the rapidly shifting dynamics over there? Professor Guda, what kind of strategic calculation do you think lies behind the region's push to expand defense cooperation with South Korea?
That's a great point. I mean, we have 4 main points actually here. First point is that regardless of Korea, the region, Middle East, is now becoming the world's largest defense market. We have to remember that in the last 5 years, the Middle East accounted for 30% of global arms imports. So Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, UAE, consistently ranking among the top 10 global buyers for weapons. This is number one. Number two is that the current state of the affairs. I mean, looking from a bird's eye view, we see that the Middle East is in a state of flux. I mean, we have many conflicts, we have many wars. looking at Sudan, looking at Israel, Gaza, we're looking at Lebanon and Hezbollah and so on, and Houthis in Yemen. So it's everywhere we have lots of conflicts. So there is a push for militarization in the Middle East. And I think this is the second main point. The third main point is that Middle East want to diversify suppliers. We have to remember that Middle Eastern leaders are really, I mean, they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket, getting weapons only from US or from Europe, and especially from Europe right now, because Europe actually is facing a capacity constraint due to Ukraine war. So in fact, Korea seems very lucrative option for them. And exactly what Professor Kim have mentioned earlier, localization, job creation, and technology transfer with the Korean partners are very good and very, I mean, they offer great prices, they offer customization and so on. So it's actually a very good thing that's happening. However, on the other hand, we have to remember that other countries are also offering localization, like China, like Turkey, and so on. So also, I think Korean companies needs to be always competitive, on the edge, working fast and working hard to maintain this strategic relation with the Middle East countries.
Right. So, Professor Guda, you've mentioned that we have to keep being competitive in the industry. So, what would you recommend, and what kind of local strategies do you think Korean defense firms should actually adopt to gain solid foothold in this market in the Middle East? And what factors should they keep in mind?
That's great. So exactly what Professor Kim have mentioned earlier, deep localization, customization, of course, targeting prices and maintaining like support system and maintenance system with the Middle East powers. I think this will go way forward with this relationship. Regional support ecosystem will play a major role, like R&D centers for AI-enabled targeting system, working together with the Middle East countries. I think this will also achieve what Korean companies are trying to do. However, I would like also to mention something here as a guy who's coming from the Middle East. I think what Korea also needs to do is also they need to look at the macro view. So not only focusing on the military, actually, I think maybe more public diplomacy will play a role. We have to remember that culture matters for the Middle Eastern public, and also political intelligence. I mean, ties with the leaders and ties with the people. It matters a lot. So I think Korea should use its powers, even K-pop and K-drama and so on. Maybe it sounds not really, I mean, that linked to military, but it is linked because it shapes the mental image of Korea. So I think Korea needs to shape this image, use its soft power, which is very good actually in the Middle East right now, and shape a long-term relationship with the Middle East countries. So it's a challenging process. And if I can give just one advice for Korean companies, don't just look at business. Expand your view, look at culture, look at the economy, look at ways to deepen the relationship, and don't just be focusing only on business. Because if you focus too much on business, well, it will be very hard. So this is my only advice for them.
Wow, Professor Guda, a very important point that you pointed out. We have to expand our view to the macro level.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
that was for Korean firms we're speaking, but what about in the national level, Professor Kim? What kind of efforts could be needed by the country to support Korean companies to expand their defense exports?
Yes, first, financial mechanism. As we experienced from the Poland case, exporting K2 tanks and K9 Howitzers in major scale, one of the hurdles was how to finance. We had to amend Korea Export-Import Bank law to increase credit lines to be given to importing countries, and we should still fix and amend this, how to finance this big chunk of money. Secondly, from defense contractors' point of view, Korean defense contractors have been focusing on the threat from the north to meet those threats, and weapon development was also focusing on that. But now to be a global producer, we should aim it globally, look widely. That's second. Third, from government side of view, government also should amend procurement guidelines. For example, let's assume Korean company are targeted and produced globally targeted weapons, but it could not find immediate domestic needs. But from buyer country's point of view, if Korean government or military purchase or test those equipment, their assurance will go up. So Korean government, Ministry of Defense should amend their procurement principles in some sense.
So a lot of government level backing would definitely be a big help in this situation. Now, so after the UAE, President Lee Jae-myung's also set, scheduled to visit Egypt, Türkiye, and Middle Eastern countries. Now, Professor Guda, what additional achievements in K-defense exports do you think we can expect from this regional tour?
Well, already Egypt and Turkey are already core markets for Korea. And I think presidential diplomacy can definitely expand this relationship even further. So in Egypt, this is Korea's flagship project, is the $1.7 billion K9 Howitzer program, substantial technology transfer and local production. Egypt is already one of the world's top 3 arms importers, and Egyptian leadership wants to replace imports with domestic capacity. I have here to mention something. I mean, the Egyptian president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, has repeatedly talked about Korea as a role model for Egypt's economic development and so on. So Korea has looked with a very favorable image in Egypt, and I think this helps the Korean side a lot. On the other hand, in Turkey, the Altay main battle tank program, powered by Korean engine and transmission, has already moved into mass production. So I think what could happen with President Lee is that we would have talks on expanding this cooperation to include engine cooperation and engine co-development, and also AI programs and so on. We have just to understand that regionally, linking Korea cooperation with UAE, Egypt, and Turkey could form a triangular defense production network. However, I have to say also 2 words of caution, or 2 sentences of caution. First thing, I think many Arab countries, and I try to follow the Arab media when it covers Korean cooperation and so on. Many Arab media outlets are talking about Israel-Korea cooperation when it comes to defense, and sometimes they are skeptical about this. So I think Korean counterpart needs to be careful about this kind of development. They need to assure Arabs that the technology will not be moved between Israel and so on for security reasons. This is one thing. The second thing is that both Egypt and Turkey are facing, I would say, significant economic issues right now when it comes to macroeconomic levels and inflation. So I think also Korean counterpart needs to be careful about this. They should trade carefully and should be having a vision of next steps always, so things can move in the right direction.
Right, so a very cautious approach built on trust would be very important. Now, finally, Professor Kim, from a long-term perspective, that's what's really matters, right? So what kind of key challenges actually remain for Korea, to expand its defense presence in the Middle East?
Yes, first, as Professor Guda mentioned, we should maintain our competitiveness to meet the challenges by the leading producers of weapons. Secondly, we should have long-term guarantee, that is, once weapons are sold, they're used at least 2 or 3 decades. So those weapons should be maintained, repaired, and overhauled, and which Korean companies can do very well. And one common thing that any country that sells weapons to Middle East should be aware of is that, for example, geoclimate issues, for example, sand wind, will reduce the service life of precision equipment, like turbine blades will be harmed very easily. Air breathing equipment of any kind will go wrong very easily. Air filters issues. So we should take care of those touch issues very carefully, and then it'll be okay. And thirdly and finally, we should go beyond simple defense into industrial cooperation, including education and training. So in that sense, the 7 or 8 MOUs we had with UAE yesterday, that touches upon those all the issues, because national defense these days is consist of, for example, food, energy, conventional defense, and cyber. And those 7 MOUs covers all those fields. So we can say those cutting-edge industrial strengths of UAE will be very naturally connected to the country's conventional defense as well. And with this MOU, we will see UAE strengthened, and we'll find more opportunities for cooperation.
Right, very important points that you've mentioned, Professor Kim. Let's hope through these tips we could keep the momentum going moving forward. Thank you so much for your insights.
My pleasure.
And of course, Professor Guda, we appreciate your time and your insights tonight.
Thank you so much.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame tonight. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.